Okay, the next phylum is going to be of that of the arthropods. Once again, kingdom is going to be Animalia. Phylum is now going to be Arthropoda. Arthro, you probably have heard that prefix before, refers to joints. And then poda, once again, comes from what we just talked about with our mollusks. Poda means foot. So in this case, the phylum Arthropoda actually means jointed foot or joint foots. Uh, that's characterized by the different joints that they have within their appendages, whether it's their antenna, their feeding appendages, or their walking legs. They have more than 5 million different species within this phylum, and it's so broad that we'll actually look at some of the subphylum that make it up, and then also some classes as well. There are 8 key characteristics of the phylum Arthropoda. The first one, once again, refers to those jointed appendages or those joint feet. They have jointed appendages in their walking legs. Some have 6 walking legs or 3 pairs. Others have 4 walking pairs of walking legs, so 8 total. They also have antennae and then also mouth parts that will be jointed as well. They are segmented, or they have 3 distinct segments. The first is the head. That's going to be located on the most anterior end and usually will contain both the antenna and the mouth appendages. The next, or the middle region, is going to be known as the thorax. That's going to usually contain the walking legs and any wings if they have them. And then you have the abdomen at the posterior end. Okay, and that's usually going to contain most of the organs of that arthropod. What you'll find is that some of the arthropods will actually have a fused head with their thorax and just giving them 2 segments. That's known as a cephalothorax. Remember, cephala means head. In this case, the head thorax fused together in order to form just one appendage at the anterior end. Arthropods also have a distinct head with compound eyes. The eyes are going to be made up of multiple units, and each one of those units is going to have its own lens and retina, so it picks up its own image. And that's why it's so hard to kill like flies within the house, is because those big eyes that they have each can give them or pick up great motion, or great at picking up motion within the realm of what they can see. It also allows for them to see wide ranges, so they have a better peripheral vision than you and I do with our 2 eyes. The fourth characteristic is their exoskeleton. This is the outer layer of their body. It's composed of a material known as chitin. That chitin is going to be thin and flexible at the joints, but over the rest of the body, it's going to actually harden up and provide a protective layer. This is what builds up that exoskeleton, and from year to year or throughout the year, you'll see most of these insects and arthropods will actually shed their exoskeleton. It also helps prevent the body from losing water to its surrounding. And the shedding of that exoskeleton, or the molting of it, is known as ecdysis within the lifetime of that arthropod. The fifth characteristic is going to be the respiratory structures. They have similar respiratory structures throughout the whole phylum. They have trachea and spiracles. Those 2 structures are actually going to be used in order to allow for air to come into the body and then circulate that air throughout the body as well. The spiracles are going to be the tiny openings throughout the body of the arthropod. So you can see over here on the caterpillar, those 2 dots there are actually openings that allow for air to actually enter into the body. Then it's the trachea that's actually going to be a system of tubes that allows for the air then to be passed throughout the body. When you go spray your lawn or spray a bug with bug killer, it actually closes up these spiracles on the side of the body and thus suffocate the animal, or the insect in this case. 6, they have an open circulatory system similar to the other phylum that we talked about. They're going to have all they're all going to have a heart. And that heart is usually going to be located in the abdomen region, so the back end of the animal. That's why if you've ever watched a wasp or a bee, it looks like their back end is actually pulsating. That's because their heart is beating and pumping that blood forward throughout their body. And then it relies on the fact that the blood will just flow throughout the rest of the body and come back to the heart at the posterior end. Insect blood actually does not have a pigment. And so if you were to smash a bug, whatever color you see is actually from the food that it eats. So if it turns up red, it probably ate some type of blood beforehand. If it turns up green or yellow, if you've seen that as you drive down the highway and you smash a bug, it usually gives you kind of a greenish yellow tint to it. And that actually comes from the food that they eat. And that's due to the fact that they have no hemoglobin. The blood itself does not need to carry or does not carry the oxygen and thus does not need that pigment to happen. 7 is going to be the Malpighian tubules. These are the excretory structures. They're a little bit more advanced than the Nephridia that we've talked about with the other two phylum of our mollusks and our annelids. But this helps with, once again, reabsorbing necessary water for them to have. Remember, they're terrestrial animals, so they're trying to maintain the amount of water that they contain. And then they also want to reabsorb any valuable nutrients and allow for the waste to excrete out the anus. And then last but not least, the 8th characteristic of our arthropods is going to be the wings. They are the first animal that we have talked about up to this point that to have wings and have the ability of flight. However, while they're found on many of the arthropods, not all of the arthropods will have wings. So let's talk about the 3 subphyla of arthropods. The first subphylum is going to be known as Uniramia. Uni means one, or uni means one, and that means, or that refers to their appendages and the single branched appendages that they have. These are usually going to be your terrestrial arthropods, and they contain jaws, so that allows for them to chew on plant material or even on other animals as well. Uniramous appendages are great because they can help lift the body off the ground and allow for better mobility on land. You can see in this, the bottom left-hand corner is going to be a centipede. Then we have our millipedes, which are going to be in the bottom right-hand corner, and then our ladybugs or other insects as well that are going to be located in the center. The second subphylum is known as Crustacea. Crustacea is going to be marine arthropods. They contain jaws as well. However, their appendages are going to be known as biramous appendages, meaning that as they come off of the body, they're going to split into 2. Remember, bi means 2 branches, and this allows for them to have bigger surface area. So you can see with the lobster's claws at the very front end, or the pincers at the front end of the body, those are branched and allows for bigger surface area. This is advantageous for our marine arthropods because now they can actually use these branched appendages almost as paddles and push their way through the water. So you can see the difference between the two here. On the left, we have the biramous appendages that takes place with our marine arthropods, and then we have our terrestrial arthropods, or those that live on land, that have a uniramous appendage. The third subphylum is going to be known as Chelicerata. They contain no jaws, and so they can't munch on their food, and they rely on using their fangs and their pincers to actually inject their prey with enzymes that helps breaks down the food externally. You'll see this with scorpions, with mites, and also with spiders. They all are found in this subphylum. So class arachnids is going to be the first subgroup of that subphylum. They are going to be the largest subphylum of Chelicerata, or largest class of the subphylum Chelicerata. They contain spiders, scorpions, ticks, mites, daddy longlegs, all which can have fangs, but only some are going to be highly venomous. What is unique about this class is the fact that their body actually consists of just two segments. Once again, that cephalothorax and then just the abdomen. So that's why you'll see at the anterior end, here's the cephalothorax, where the head is going to be fused with the thorax, and then the abdomen is going to be at the back end of that spider. What you'll find is on the actual pairs of appendages that a chelicerae will have, or chelicerata will have, their first one is going to actually be known as the chelicerae. These are going to be the pincers or fangs, or the modified chewing parts that they have, in which give the class its name. The second pair, or located right behind those, are going to be what are known as the pedipalps. These are almost like the little tiny hands of the spider in this case. So when they catch a prey, they'll inject the prey with their poison or their venom. And what will happen is that will happen with the chelicerae, but then the pedipalps are what actually help them wrap up the organism in their web. There's 4 pairs of walking legs that follow after that, and obviously those are used for walking. And then what you'll find is on the abdomen, or right next to where the cephalothorax meets the abdomen, is what is known as a book lung. There's an organ in there that allows for air to pass over, and it serves as being a more advantageous way of breathing than just having our spiracles and our trachea like the other arthropods. So once again, here's what this looks like. So you'll see it's located just on the belly side of the abdomen. What will happen is air will flow over or enter in through an opening, a spherical opening, and it will flow over these little tiny plates. And these little tiny plates look like a book, and that's where it gets its name. And what will happen is it will flow with what we call countercurrent flow, where the blood is being pumped one way and the air is flowing in the opposite way, which then allows for the blood to be exposed to the air for a very long time. The chelicerae, once again, are going to be the fangs that are found on the most anterior end of the arachnids. They, once again, contain poison glands that can secrete the poison through their fangs and allow for them to actually kill or paralyze the prey. Since arachnids do not have jaws, they rely on this in order to inject enzymes into their prey, liquefying the tissue, and then allows for them to actually just come by and slurp up what's left of their prey. At the back end, they have these little tiny appendages known as spinnerets. This is what actually allows for the spider to spin its web. And you can actually see they're like little tiny hands when the spider tries to spin its web. It wraps all that silk together. So scorpions are our next group. They are characterized by their long, slender, segmented abdomens, which contain at the most posterior end, they contain a large stinger. They usually hold this stinger above the rest of their body as it curves forward, but they use this in order to, once again, sting their prey and paralyze their prey. These pedipalps that they have are going to be very large. You can see those are the big pincer-like claws at the front of their body, and they use these in order to seize the animal or insect that they're attacking, and then sting it with their stinger. And then they're also used during sexual reproduction, as well as the male will grab onto the female. Next is going to be mites. Mites are going to be the largest group of the arachnids. This includes both your chiggers and your ticks. These are characterized by their unsegmented body, meaning that the head, the thorax, and the abdomen are all fused together in one. And so from that, what you can see is in the pictures, there's no distinct head region or thorax region or abdomen. It's all one segment. Attached to that is going to be both the mouth parts and the walking legs. And what you'll find with these ticks and chiggers is that they are great at passing viral and fungal infections from plant host to plant host, and then also to animals as well. And that's why you can get, for instance, like Lyme disease from a tick that maybe bites you and infects you. Uh, it also can cause other diseases to be passed between animals, such as deers. You usually find deers covered with ticks as they travel through the tall grasses. Lyme disease, in order to identify that, here's kind of what that looks like. So what you'll see is that the tick or the chigger will actually bury its head into the skin. That's why they're so hard to get out. You usually have to either heat the tick up with like a hot spoon, or you have to use like Vaseline. I heard is probably the best way to get it out. Cover it with Vaseline. It starts to suffocate, and then it will pull its way out. Otherwise, if you just try to pull it away, the head will remain attached and still within your skin, and it's still able to pass the different diseases such as Lyme disease to you. What you feel with Lyme disease, or what you can characterize Lyme disease with, is this little target look or rash that starts to develop. Usually, what happens after that is you get headaches, you get hearing loss, muscle soreness. It really can deplete you, give you weakness, fever, chills, fatigue, and it's all due to a bacteria that actually gets passed from the tick into you as well. So it can cause some problems there. Okay, that's your notes for arthropods. I'll see you guys next week.